Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at 5:35 p.m. for the Dover-Sherborn Regional School Committee. So with that being said, we're going to start with community comments. Do we have any?
We have two.
All right. State your name and town.
Okay. My name is Katie Sullivan. I'm a resident of Dover. I'm here to advocate for changing the KHB and KHA policy language to allow sponsorships and family contributions to our athletic programs. My husband Dan and I have 4 children who went through the Dover-Sherborn school system, all 4 of them athletes, all 4 of them captains across 3 seasons of sports. I'm currently also the president of the DS Gridiron Club. When I say I've been part of this program, I mean it. Our household has provided and hosted well over 1,000 meals, team breakfasts, lunches, dinners, food on buses, game day snacks. We have put personal money into things that make a program feel resourced rather than just surviving. Professional photos, lacrosse balls, generator, banners, customized tents, blow-up turkeys, etc. I've done it gladly because I believe in what sports does for our kids, and I believe in this school. And while I'm grateful for the new turf, I know that project was hard fought and well earned. I want to be honest with you all about something. When we host other towns, I notice a difference. Not in our kids are excellent. I notice it in what those programs can afford. Scoreboards, equipment, banners for every senior athlete, seating for every fan. I feel something and I call it a deficit. Not of effort or heart, but of resources that other communities have figured out how to generate and we haven't. That matters beyond athletics. I want the experience of being a Dover-Sherborn student athlete to be something that draws families to this district, not something they quietly look past when they're weighing one of the dozen private schools within driving distance of our towns. Public schools are always under budget pressure. I'm not asking the committee to spend money we don't have. I'm asking that you let us raise it. In our family alone, we have 2 businesses that would be glad to support this school, not for recognition. We think of it as quietly cheering from the sideline. It means something to have a visible stake in what happens here, to say, we invested in these kids. And we're not alone. There are families and businesses across Dover and Sherborn who feel exactly the same way and have no outlet for it under our current policy. What stands in the way is a policy written in 2012. Every school we compete against in the Tri-Valley League has moved past it. We are the outlier. We've put together a proposal. I hope you'll read it. It doesn't ask for you to open the floodgates. It asks for a structured, supervised pathway for community investment in DS athletics, with safeguards, with school committee oversight, and with every fiscal control already in place. We moved to Dover 25 years ago with no children. We stayed because of this community and this school. Our 4 kids are thriving because of it. I'm asking you to make the same possible for the next 25 years of Dover-Sherborn families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you have the policy too? That I can. Do you have a?
Yeah.
Yay.
I wasn't sure how many people would be here.
Thank
but
you.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Hedween Shuzda. I've been living in Dover with my husband Michael for 14 years. We have 3 kids in the DS school system, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school, all very actively involved in DS sports. And as a result, I'm a very involved sport parent. I've also served full terms of the executive board of Positive in the middle school and the high school PTO. I want to tell you a little bit about what this policy that we have in place looks like through one particular lens, and that's baseball, which is my kid's favorite sport. I want to paint a clearer picture of what it does for what impact it has on our school. Did you know that Dover-Sherborn is the only school in the Tri-Valley League that does not have a baseball scoreboard? Did you know that a high school baseball game spans 7 innings, and that can last over 2 hours? That's a long time to keep track of where you are in the game and what the score is, for athletes and fans alike. It's a topic of conversation among DS parents and visiting parents every single game. What's the score? Where are we? What inning is it? Constantly. Every year, our athletes and their parents work incredibly hard fundraising for their team through car washes, through bake sales, yard signs, concessions, to generate money that goes directly back into our program. It barely covers the immediate needs of the program for that given year. Sometimes, if we're lucky, we have a small surplus that we pass on to the following season. Acquiring and installing a new scoreboard would cost $35,000. And that's the solar option. If we were to opt for the powered option, you would have to dig power lines, which would be thousands more. If we're limited to just grassroots campaigns, it would take us 35 years before we have a scoreboard. Meanwhile, I watch what other towns do. Holliston's Boosters sends a letter to local businesses every spring. Westwood's Boosters have community sponsors for over 50 years. Medfield runs a tiered athletic sponsorship program. They have every inning of every baseball game that they have at home sponsored by a local business. Many of the scoreboards in our surrounding towns are sponsored by local banks or local businesses. These aren't exploitative or they're not inappropriate. They're local dentists, restaurants, real estate agents, banks, small businesses who generally support the kids in our community. And they get a little recognition for it. We have those same businesses in Dover and Sherborn who would be willing to contribute, but our policy won't allow for it. This issue isn't just limited to baseball, as Katie's pointed out. Our other programs could benefit from improved equipment and facilities. The gap between what we can raise through grassroots campaigns and what it costs to run a competitive program is growing every year. I'm not asking for billboards in the hallways. I'm simply asking to be able to put a business's name on the scoreboard. To thank a sponsor with some form of public recognition, to allow a coach to send a letter to team families asking for voluntary support. They're not radical things, they're standard practice for everywhere around us. And they would really make a difference for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate hearing from you, and we thank you for all your support to the athletics and to the children and your kids who've been athletes. So we are going through policies now, so this is very timely. So, yeah.
And it actually is on our list.
It's on our list.
We mentioned when we talked, yeah.
Like, let's just,
Yeah. Because we have some things that we know we need that kind of support
Right.
for, funding wise, so we
Yeah.
timed it with the policy going
Yeah.
through, but it's.
I'm the policy chair.
and whatever we can do as parents
Yeah.
to support, we have it, so.
So,
Appreciate that.
thank you both. And my son has benefited from the breakfast at your house as well.
That might be more than, that might have been understated, but.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you both very much.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We appreciate all your support.
Thank you.
Okay, there's none online, are there?
Nope.
No? Okay, so with that, I will close the community comments. I have our policies that we can go through when we meet again. So here we go. We're gonna get all this done. This is a large lift that's almost finished. Okay, our student council reps. I don't think anybody's here.
I don't think on this beautiful day.
Well, and I think too, we have the girls lacrosse game going, which I know is part of the Sadie's memorial thing. Yeah, so I think people are very much entitled to be pre-engaged right now. Okay, so we'll move on to the superintendent comments.
All right,
Superintendent McCoy.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I have some general updates and then those indicated on the agenda. I just want to congratulate the cast and crew of the day the internet went out and their show. They did a fabulous job, and I loved the theme of it. And I thought what was really neat is they asked different faculty members and administrators what we would do, and kind of how many times would you try to restart your computer before you kind of came to the terms of the fact that your internet went out, and then they published an article about it. So lots of excitement and good conversation coming out of that production. So congratulations to them. As we know, the sports continue out on the fields here and within the Tri-Valley, and we have many senior nights and events coming up. So congratulations to our seniors and their families for all of the work and effort that you put in to make DS a really great sports program. This is Educators Appreciation Week, so many thanks to all of the families and community members who provide goodies and letters of support and love for our educators, and we'll be doing the same. We have a raffle and we pull out 6 names and we deliver lunch to 6 lucky educators just to show a little bit of our love and support. But it's a really special week because a lot of the work and a lot of the value in teaching is obviously intrinsic. For many of you, you attended either the Sherborn Town meeting last week or the Dover Town meeting last night. And good news for the schools in that the budgets have passed, so we can open next year as planned. And at Pine Hill, we'll be getting a new water tank, and here at the high school, we'll be getting a new roof and new skylights. So very exciting news, and we're very thankful to all of you who worked on the budgets. For those of you who attended meeting after meeting to get it through all of the various boards and advisory committees, and to the taxpayers who continue to support, our schools. Hiring. Thinking about next year, we are deep in the hiring process, and I think Denny is probably closest to it right now. He looks a little tired. But I think what is really exciting is we have interview screening committees come together, and many of you have served on those. They go through a screening process for whatever position, whether it's educator or administrator. Then we often have those people come back as finalists to do a mock lesson or meet with various groups and do task performances. And then kind of the final piece is that I get to meet with the finalist at central office, and I've probably met with 5 or 6 new employees over the last 2 weeks, and they are each one individually amazing. I am so excited about each one and bringing them on board to the Dover-Sherborn schools. So lots of great, I think, opportunities ahead and fresh breath and new perspectives. So many thanks to all of you who serve on those committees and spend hours reviewing resumes and looking at questions. Negotiations, we have completed our negotiations with the educators. We've talked about that before. Thank you again to those of you, Mary and Jeff, who served on that committee. And we are, Dawn and I, with your blessing, still working with our administrative assistants, our custodians, and our food service personnel on their contracts, making great progress, and we hope to have you updates sometime soon. So moving ahead there. In terms of the 3 specific items on the agenda, as you know, Jen Santosuoso, our current middle school assistant principal, will be assuming the role of principal next year, which opened a spot. Denny led a very comprehensive search with 2 parents, Brenda Hagan and Colleen Ryan, who served on that committee. And we have found a wonderful assistant superintendent who are stealing from the Needham Public Schools. Her name is Emily Rosenthal. And we had 3 excellent finalists, but I think it was kind of unanimous that she is, yes, young-ish, but has a lot of experience in math, which complements Jen's experience in the humanities, and just has this innate nature about her where she just seems to connect with all different stakeholder groups and just have this great response to administrative type issues. So we're excited to bring her on board. We're hoping that both Jen and Emily will be able to join us in June as they bring forth the first rendition of their school improvement plans for next year. So they'll get to meet both in person. Secondly, the High School Therapy Dog Initiative. So if you remember back, Elise Posada did a PowerPoint presentation for you a couple months ago, the Positive, PAWS, Impact Project, and she has been working her tail off, trying to get everybody on board. And finally, she has wrangled Mr. Smith and myself and has a plan. So she has connected with somebody who works at the high school who's willing to be a handler. I can't tell you who. But they're super excited. She's connected with agencies, 2 agencies we're going to send applications to who will likely be able to supply a dog. And she's also been in touch with Sergeant Nolte from Sherborn, who is West's handler, talking about kind of what the experience is and what things that you don't read in an application or read in a brochure, that topics we might need to consider. And where are we going to get the money? Good question. Dawn? No.
Not after you hear my report.
So I think I talked about it last year, and some of you might have children or neighbors who take Nick Grout's engineering class. If you remember last year, their big project was they built like 1980s retro arcade cabinets and could actually play like Pac-Man and Tetris. Well, you can't send that home with 4 kids, so what are we going to do with it? We're going to auction it off to a family who might want that in their actual game room. And this year's renditions are underway. Are you ready? Denny, help me out here. We have Guitar Hero coming out. We have Dance Dance Revolution. We have a flight simulator game. We have a driving game. And I was in the workshop today and got covered in sawdust, but making great progress. And those are going to go up for auction as well. And that's where we're hoping to get the money for our dog. So Elise is working with some of our students who are great with design and photography to get photos of the arcades. They're building a website similar to what the Chickering PTO does for their silent auction. And if you don't want to buy an arcade for your living room or your game room, there'll be a donate button. And so we're hoping not only to cover the cost of the dog, which can run between $10,000 and $15,000, but also have kind of a place where the handler can submit receipts for the vet or for food kind of over time. So more to come on that, but Elise is working really hard. She's reaching out to the 4 PTOs. She met with the Guidance Advisory Council, and she's going to need the help of all the parents and all the kids to get the word out that if you'd like another furry creature, here on the regional campus, aside from West when he visits. We'd love for you to all donate and support the mental health and well-being of our kids. And lastly, the secondary instructional coach pilot. So I sent you all a memo, and I'm happy to take questions. I think to sum it up is we did a 2-year instructional leadership study. Originally, our proposal was to have 2 curriculum leaders, K-12, 1 humanities, and 1 STEM. Just being conscious of the budget landscape in both towns, he said, let's start with 1. With your blessing, you said, we're not going to go to 0. You've done all this work, and there's all this work that needs to be done. Let's start with 1. So we posted for 1 K-12 curriculum coordinator. And in the process of interviewing candidates and having the PLC leaders at the table, and having the middle school curriculum leaders at the table, and having the high school department heads at the table, and the administrators at the table, it became clear that this person's job description was going to be nearly impossible, and that we really do need 2 individuals, and that there's really 2 buckets of things that need to be covered. There's the K-12 curriculum, which initially is going to be really heavy at the elementary level as we switch the schedule and start to focus more on social studies, science, engineering, health. And then there's the fact that the elementaries have 4 instructional coaches right now, and the middle and high school have 0. And they really want one. And I think that when the teachers ask for something and they're excited about something, it's hard to say no because you have their interest and their buy-in. So what Denny and I are proposing, and Dawn as well, is we have Jen Ryan, former Pine Hill teacher, who's going to be assuming the K-12 curriculum coordinator position. Lots of strong support for her. And there's a second candidate who is exceptionally strong, has done some substitute teaching. She just moved here with her husband or fiance. She's substituted at the high school just to get her feet in a good system. She has been a instructional coach before in a large school district. She has a STEM background, which would complement Jen's humanities background. And high school teachers really think highly of her. We'd love to hire her as a 6 through 12 instructional coach. So with your blessing, and your support, we would like to move forward with a pilot to see next year if we have the K-12 curriculum coordinator and a 6 through 12 instructional coach, if we can start to make progress towards all the goals we have in place. The reason we can make this possible is we had an unexpected retirement at the high school, and due to declining enrollment, we don't need to fill that position and still have very reasonable class sizes. So it would just be changing that position from a classroom teacher to an instructional coach and try it out for a year.
So I take it we need to vote on this.
You don't have to vote because it's a pilot, but would love your feedback and questions. Okay. Next year, if it becomes permanent, we would need to vote.
We would need a vote. Any questions? So it's pretty much following in line, though, with what you set out, like as the huge objective that we have. It's still, but it's 2 people. So are we dividing the buckets up like you had before?
So it's not going to be K-12 STEM and K-12 humanities like we initially thought. Okay. Again, as you spend more time talking to people and getting feedback, it becomes more clear what we need. And so it seems like if Jen can help Denny tie all the disciplines together, K-12, particularly at the elementary in the next few years, starting there and then weaving it up, there is just such excitement and such desire to have an instructional coach in the middle and high school that we might not need 2 administrators, and might benefit instead from Jen being the curriculum administrator and then an instructional coach, still 1 at the region compared to 4 at the elementaries, but it's a starting point.
Right.
And I think we need to capitalize on that excitement.
And currently we don't have any at the region. That's my understanding.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
And you said that classroom sizes will not be impacted by this, so it's only, from what you're saying, positive impact for the kids, for the, okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Smith, the high school principal, has done a really nice job. As you know, we did not replace the history teacher that's retiring. They've already had the enrollment numbers for next year for all of the courses. They looked carefully at history. This happens to be a math position. They looked carefully at the math position, or the math size, class sizes. They're still going to be really reasonable in the 17, 18 student range.
What is it at right now? Is it?
Well, it depends based on level, based on timing, based on, singleton classes. There's some classes that are 10 students, and there's some classes that are 14, and there's others that are 22. So we're trying to make it more even in the middle to be fiscally responsible.
So I have a question. So at Pine Hill, you said they had 4, right?
Well, 2 at each elementary.
Oh, okay, dude. And we are taking Jen Ryan from Pine Hill and bringing her over to the
Yeah, so right now there's a literacy coach and a math coach in each elementary school, and that's new within the last 5 years. Jen Ryan went from being 4th and 5th grade teacher at Pine Hill to literacy coach for 5 years to assistant principal for 1 year, and now she's going to be the curriculum coordinator. She's very talented and continues to spread her wings and her magic. And so now Denny's in the process of trying to find a replacement assistant principal.
Lots.
2
assistants.
2, 1 in each building, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pine Hill and Chickering. Tim O'Mara, the assistant principal of high school, is now going to be the veteran assistant principal in the district in year 4.
So I got turned in circles. So a coordinator is the administrative portion, and the coordinator we currently have is just for the humanities portion.
Well, Jen, you can help me out here too. We kind of hired someone who isn't a discipline expert, but instead understands how to design curriculum, the backwards design of like what do students need to know, and how will we be able to measure that through assessment, and then what should our classroom instruction look like. So I think they have the general background of curriculum and instruction as they would have gotten a degree in how to build that. Jen's background does happen to be humanities if you dig down deep. She was a psychology major and really literacy coach.
So she's trying to make sure both Pine Hill and Chickering have the same
curriculum, and then weave it up to the middle and high school
and
once
the
they're
coach,
settled.
Yeah, and then the coach you're hiring is for
Middle school and high school to actually talk about the instruction. So Jen would be with Denny managing the curriculum. Denny's been trying to do that all by himself.
Gotcha.
Lucy's now going to have Jen to help him. But once the curriculum is designed, then it's the coaches at the elementary school. You have math and literacy in each building saying this is what it looks like in practice, and this is how you make it, student centered,
Gotcha.
and this is how you look at data and adjust it. We would now have Jen doing that at the middle and high school.
So you're doing a proof of concept at the
yes.
middle school and high school.
Yes.
And then the coordinator will be over both of those after the.
Denny's
And is it
right-hand person.
a rolling interview also for the coach?
Yeah, she's super talented. If she, if we don't pick her up for a pilot next year, somebody else is going to pick her up really fast. And so I'd like to get her here in place and to have her working with the high school who adores her.
Gotcha.
And I think
All right.
would respect her feedback. And then we'll see how it goes and hopefully be able to keep her.
So you're
If not-
narrowing just to the elementary schools now, but year 2 broadening the coordinator to get all of it.
Well, I think we're still looking at the coordinator as being K through 12, but heavy in the elementaries initially, but not ignoring the.
There's middle school science work that we need to do in
Yeah.
revising our curriculum maps. There's math work that we need to do. We're finishing high school. Social studies curriculum maps, looking at potential new electives at the high school. So Jen Ryan, the curriculum coordinator, will have her hands in all of that as well.
And I think a piece of the curriculum coordinator a little bit was instructional coaching, being in the classroom, sort of helping with rolling out of curriculum. So I think what will happen is we'll just it's piecemealed a little bit, but since they don't have any of that, and we've been talking so much about it at the region, now there's a dedicated resource for them to have that kind of experience that we have been seeing at the elementaries.
Yeah, again, I just feel like
Yeah.
I'm just like foreshadowing
Yeah.
Yeah.
people coming next year and saying, why am I having 2 people doing the same job? So we should make
Yeah.
sure that
Denny has.
we already got asked this year to cut, right? So let's
Yeah.
set ourselves up for success.
Absolutely. We have charts in like 3 different formats.
Okay.
Happy to share.
Another question. So, like Mr. Smith was talking about those special courses like security and robotics and
Data.
Yeah. So, how will their role be in assisting? Do you, Danny, choose what is going to be taught, and how do you decide on the curriculum, and how are they going to help you in that?
Well, I know that Mr. Smith and Mr. Grout, who's the department head for science or technology and engineering right now, they're beginning to research some of these potential courses, going to various webinars, finding out, if there are local districts that are starting to implement them. And then they usually take that information, present it to the high school academic standards committee, and then they have the kind of recommendation of the courses that we might potentially add. Then I can work in tandem as that process is happening to make sure it's aligned with our district's goals and things that we're looking for, fortunate for graduate and our best practices. So that's usually the process. And then it comes to all of you via the program of studies to vote and approve.
A great example, though, is speaking of Nick Rout, he oversees technology and engineering in the middle school and high school. He's one of 3 department chairs that are 6 through 12 as opposed to 9 through 12. And then he collaborates with the elementary schools when he can to make sure that the technology and engineering curriculum goes all the way through. He is thrilled about having someone in the position of curriculum coordinator who can help him align that K to 12 and be a thought partner for him when he sits down and thinks about new courses or tries to think outside the box. There'll be someone there who can help with that.
Thank you.
But you can see how it takes a village, right? Because the department heads have always been the ones who sort of spearhead what new courses need to be in there, right? They have to support that. So this just gives them some additional support
Of course.
for that, but it doesn't take anything. It takes everyone, to pick up those pieces to bring those courses forward, especially at the high school.
Yeah.
And you brought forth the curriculum question, which is where Denny and Jen will help people like Nick. But as you know, through this process, we have maintained high school department heads teaching only 4 out of 5 classes and increased their stipend. The middle school curriculum leaders, for the first time ever, will have 1 period off to support their colleagues and their departments in the middle school. And all of those folks have said, we want to be on the same page in terms of how we go into classrooms, how we support teachers, how we give feedback, and that's where the instructional coach is going to come in. So you can kind of see how they're working in tandem.
I have a random question. Where will the coordinators or will they be located in each different schools, or it's more of a traveling thing, or?
So we found a closet yesterday in the admin basement. You think we're kidding? Don wasn't here. We took a field trip downstairs to the file room.
Personal closet.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah,
There's a window.
There's a window?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a bowling alley. It's
Yeah.
really long and thin now. So the coach we'd want them to be in the middle and high school. So they would have a space in one of those buildings. There's a space in the middle school that we have our eyes on, but that person would be between the middle and high school, and luckily they're on the same campus. The curriculum coordinator would have an office, a central office somewhere, maybe this closet, maybe not. But as someone who oversees curriculum and is so integrated in teaching, will spend 90% of their time in the 4 buildings.
Yeah.
We'll just need a space to be checking in with Denny, kind of thing.
Okay.
Is that the one holding the telescope, Mr. Bridger's telescope?
No, that's the middle school.
That's the custodial closet at the middle school.
I saw that when we were in middle school.
Yeah. I mean, it came up at the interviews. One of the candidates said, "Well, I don't expect to be in my office. I'm going to be out, about." And I said, "That's good because we don't really have an office for you." So it's good that that's not your plan. But no, they're really right. They have to be out. They're going to be in the rooms. They have to see everything and help. And because that's why I'm saying that part of that job is a little bit of the instructional coaching as well.
And then I'm guessing each school probably has just not an empty office, but offices they could use if they had to attend to emails or.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to be a traveling.
Right.
Well, the instructional coaches at the elementary level, they already have a suite in each building. So they already have a place. It's really just Jen, who's going to be K to 12, that doesn't have a spot. So that's why we're trying to carve out a little space for her and Denny to be able to work together in central
In the
office.
basement, yeah.
And there's also, I think that idea of her being
The garden.
That's good.
The
That
garden
is
level.
good.
the garden level.
It has a window. I
Get
mean,
Denny a partner's desk and they sit.
I offered to share my office and everybody just looked at me.
My first office was actually a broom closet, and I had no window when I was an assistant district attorney. I got it because I was short, because the ceiling was lower. So that's how they said, you're short, you don't need height. So when my trial partner, who was 6'6", came in, he had to duck down. He was like, let's meet in my office. Yeah,
So we should take height into account.
take height into account.
Okay. So we'd like to pilot it next year. We don't need official vote, but
Okay.
Again, your feedback is important. So
No, I just wanted to see how it paralleled with what, our pie in the sky goal was when we started, how we're tracking on this and what it changed.
I will keep an eye on it. We might come
Yeah.
back next year and say that was a terrible idea, or we might come back next year and say it's awesome, or we might come back next year and say we want Jen to be K to 12 humanities, and we want this other person maybe to be K to 12 STEM.
Okay.
We'll continue to monitor closely.
Well, it's good that we can pilot it and see what works. That's nice.
I think there was a person that was too good to walk away from, and so this is a way. And then we had the unexpected retirement. So I think the stars were aligning. And we've piloted positions before, and just to give us an idea before we cement them in the base of the budget. So this gives us that opportunity. We have the funding. Should be some savings even with the retirement. So even with addition, because of the retirement, we should have some savings that will be in the next year's operations, but then also built into the 28 budget.
All right. Any more questions?
Okay, so we'll let you know who that person is if we get her to sign on the dotted line.
Sounds great. I'll keep my fingers and toes crossed. I hope so, because it sounds like a really good fit.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right, is that it from you?
That's it. So just keep in mind, that's talking about next year's budget. Dawn's going to take us back to talking about this year's budget. So let go of next year, back to reality.
Right, back to reality.
I don't like reality.
And what can happen sometimes. So your first report is your monthly warrant report, and I continue to think, Jeff, we're completely, although I cut a new warrant today, so we're already behind. And I see I missed a comma there on the end of the year, or the non-check batch. So when you really see those big numbers towards the end of the month, keep in mind that's our healthcare invoice that I have to process. So that's where that comes from. On the current year, so you have financials in your packet as of April 30th. On the revenue side, there hasn't been a lot of changes. We are now getting towards the end of the year, so we have a firmer grasp on what some of the activity fees are going to look like, the athletics, the parking, and then the true activity fees. Jumping back up, as you know, we discussed, there is a lot of discussion at the state level that although the Chapter 71 transportation initial payment came in around the 80% reimbursement level, through continued discussions about the fiscal year 27 budget and firming up what's happening in 26, everyone feels fairly comfortable that when we get our final payment in June for transportation, it will reflect 90% reimbursement. So with that, we didn't take the whole 90 or the whole additional 10%, which would have been 89,000, but we did pick up 60,000 in the projections just to give us a better look at what your financials are going to be. Keep in mind that our operating variance right now says about $212,000. Then that's where we built the base for the $200,000 that we are using towards fiscal year 27's budget. So that was the E&D that you approved from June 30th, 2026 E&D to help fund the 27 budget, but we mirror that to the additional or the excess revenues that we had. So I just want to tie those two pieces together. So in a way, that 200,000 won't go into E&D as a surplus. It will actually then go towards funding next year's budget. On the activity side, the only one that I think was on the material side is the high school athletic fees. We continue to be under budget on that particular activity for the last couple of years. One thing that I've talked to the athletic department about is, if you remember when we increased the fees a couple years ago, we reduced the family cap from 5 to 4 to sort of help with the increase. Through discussions with them, they feel, and I will tell you, most people have to refund because they pay the family cap. I just sent out like 20 checks today. So people aren't counting on that necessarily. We're actually giving them money back. So I think in June, I'll bring forward a request to increase the family cap back up to 5 for fiscal year 27. And I'm pretty sure in fiscal year 28, we probably will ask for a rate increase. Because we do need to at least get up to that funding level that we built into the budget. And as we know, things continue to escalate in price. And so we need to probably help fund that piece of the budget a little bit more. So we'll do it in pieces. We'll do the family cap back up to 5 for fiscal year 27. And then probably when your version 1.0 of the budget is presented next December, you will see that we'll ask for an increase in the athletic fee. They're looking at $350 up from $335, and they are already gathering the fees for the other TVL schools so that we know where we stand against our neighboring towns.
What is driving the whole variance that's helping us get back to par is a bank interest?
Bank interest, yes. We're always very conservative on bank interest, right? Because you really know how it's going to play out. Like now we're seeing interest rates go down a little bit, so we never want to be short on interest. So that's always something that is there to help us, and it's been I would say over the last 3 years, that's been a positive variance that has helped us sort of offset some of the fees that we're under. We're still collecting, you can see I have an estimated to be received of $3,500 in parking fees. The sophomores, now that the seniors are on senior project as they turn 16, can start parking. And we had some checks that are having to get reissued. So that's like 10 or a little more than 10. Well, won't be that many, but I'm hoping we'll get $3,500. We actually exceeded parking fees last year, so that one is a hard. Typically, we make that one. But we're just $5,000 short on that. Where we have made huge headway, if you go back and look at your financial statements for the last couple of years, is that we are now seeing a little bit of a surplus on the activity fees, both high school and middle school. They've exceeded what we thought, whereas previous years they were under. So I think the middle school is seeing an increase in those who want to stay after school and take part of some of the different activities. And I think the high school is doing a great job this year of tracking to make sure everyone who's participating in those clubs, and remember, you pay one fee and you can do anything. You can do all the clubs, but just accounting for that a little better. But yes, we've been quite fortunate in the bank interest, and I will say the last two treasurers have been really good, almost about sweeping our accounts and putting them in the higher. You remember we invest in, or we put our money into MMDT, which has a mini sort of mutual fund that is government based, so that we're getting a little bit of a higher interest rate than at your typical bank. And he just created actually a capital account at the MMDT, so that when we take in capital funds before they're expended, we can go get a little extra interest on those as well. So he looks at our accounts daily and pulls money and moves it all around. So we're also maximizing our potential for interest income.
Good.
Okay, so that is the revenue side. On the operating side, so we've been carrying a projection of negative salaries variance from basically the beginning, knowing that substitutes are continuing to incur. I will say that for the 10 years I've been here, we've seen the most leaves of absences for various reasons. And when you have a leave of absence, you're still paying that person, but you're also backfilling them with a substitute. And when it's a long-term substitute, they cost more than just our daily substitute. And in classes where it's a little bit more at the high school level, a little bit more of an involved course that the person has to cover, we typically actually pay a little bit more than our daily rate to make sure we have a qualified individual, so those students are not losing out on good instruction. So you can see that our substitutes right now, and we're not done, paying for substitutes is already $80,000 over budget. In addition, based on student needs, we've had to add, and this number you've been seeing since the early fall, 2 additional educational assistants, and the other piece of that is there are some pluses and minuses in some of the line items just based on the staffing changes that happened between what we budgeted in 26 and then what turned out to be actual. And those sort of do net out a little bit. The big driver here is our substitutes. And so that is, we don't like to have a negative in salaries, but we don't have a choice when we have to allow people to take their leave and backfill them with quality people. On the flip side, looking at expenditures, couple of things are presenting us with larger variances than normal. One of those being our legal services. As you know, this was a negotiation year, so we're always a little heavier with our legal services on negotiation years, as well as there's still some continuing issues that we've been dealing with for a year or two that we are continuing to deal with our attorneys on. And then keep in mind, our attorneys also work with Kate McCarthy, our Director of Student Services, for any of our sort of IEP, out-of-district placement negotiations, discussions. So they cover multiple areas of support for us, and everything's collided this year. So we're looking at almost about a $30,000 negative variance in legal services. Sometimes it's hard for me to, at this point, even project because I don't know everything that's happening. So there is an encumbrance in there, but that number could be a little higher when we come to June 30th. in addition, I think the biggest drivers for us is utilities. And so I've been talking a little bit about utilities. There's been a change in sort of the program that our schools are operating. I'm still investigating this. So if you know, businesses sometimes have peak charges and non-peak charges. Up until sometime this year, we were always non-peak regardless of when we were using utilities. We had a switch. I'm still trying to see if it's legit or what, but we are seeing, obviously, when do we use most of our power is in the peak. So we're seeing a larger cost of delivery because they charge you more on your peak kilowatts than they do on your non-peak kilowatts. Add that to working with our procurement officer or our procurement consultant as well. There's something strange going on with our contract rate because we are under contract for the supply side of electricity, but something a little strange is going on. Can't fully explain it, but we're looking into that. So we've had a little bit of an increase on just our supply rate. But what is driving the region the most, unfortunately, in the winter months, our new fully electric units are costing us way more than we thought. We are seeing increases in usage of like 100% 1 month. And it is the nature of trying to bring that morning air up where it used to be gas fired. To heat that air, it's much more labor intensive, machine intensive to get that. And so we've talked to the engineers and they're like, yeah, that's what people sometimes don't understand is the amount of electricity it takes. So the good thing is it's seasonal. Like we weren't seeing it in the fall. And then I will say, I was here with you guys in March. It didn't seem, it hadn't hit yet because the bills lag about 45 days. When we got that first one, I'm like, there has to be something wrong. So the first one was like 141% increase and 100 and then 80. So now we're back down, but we are trying to see if there's any way that we can set the sort of the operating parameters to sort of try to minimize what is happening. But we were having problems with those new units, getting the rooms up in the morning temperature. The morning startup was really slow. So I think they have tweaked things, but we've also then had to make our off-hour temperature not as low as we used to because we can't get it back up. So there's a little bit of learning curve there, I think, with the programming. We've been working with our building management system people to see if we can tweak it. So that's something we're learning more about, but be leery. And I will tell you that we have fully electrified the units at Pine Hill as well, and I'm seeing the same thing. So it's not something that's just here, it's just the nature.
Systems? These are the individual room heating systems?
No. So what happens is the boilers really do the heat, right? But the air exchange has to heat the air before it comes in, because you can't do the air exchange and bring in the below. Plus, it was actually a really cold winter. If you bring in that cold air, you have to temper that air to do the air exchange. So it's not our heat. It's just, and remember we kept saying it's just the backup heat. It's just enough to temper the air when it goes in, and that's what was gas on the old. So it was predominantly electric RTUs, but the heat piece of it was oil. I'm sorry, I keep saying oil, gas. And so it was both towns were adamant that we go to complete electrification units.
It was way colder, and
yeah,
it was also the highest rates across Massachusetts too. So I don't know if our rates were a lot higher this year.
Yeah, no. So we lock in the supply rate, but it is.
But it was the same as last year. I know we lock in the rate, but it.
Yeah.
Okay. It was
our
current.
But it's the delivery. So if you look at your delivery part, it's crazy how that has increased, and I think that's what the governor's trying to.
Do we know if there's other schools that have done the same type of conversion, if they're experiencing the same?
Yeah, so we talk more and more into your engineers, and they're like, yeah, that is, and even our contractors said, unfortunately, people are actually usually surprised that that's going to happen, especially for just a small component of the operating machine, the operating system, right? That it just does the morning warm up of the heat really and then also the air exchange throughout the day. So that's why it didn't really seem to be a big deal at all in August, September, October, November, really even December is when we started getting the January, February, and March bills that we were seeing the huge spike.
Did we see a decrease in the gas usage?
A little bit, but the gas prices went up, and we weren't, yeah. And hindsight's 2020. But when we went to renew our gas, it was at a point where the consultants felt like it was going to go down, so it didn't make sense to lock in the time frame that we typically lock in, because it's one of those supply and demands. When you roll in, because I think our contract ended like in end of February. When I get to April, May, and June, you're paying nothing for gas because you're paying rate, and I see that. And so you lock in at a rate for your winter, and you're still paying that in the summer too. So because we were getting ready to go into the spring, summer, they recommended, and I asked if it made sense to not lock in and look at it again in the fall. Well, who knew what was going to happen in the world? Yeah. So we are paying a little bit of higher price right now on the gas, but declining what we need to use right now, because gas is one of those. It's heavy in the winter and really nothing in the shoulder seasons. So I'm hoping that we didn't know everything that we know now when we built the 27 budget. We did increase it a little bit, but we're trying to be smarter to see if we can at least bring that back down to a manageable. So some of this caught us off guard a little bit. We do have a new electricity contract that's going in December, and we'll have a little bit of a lower locked-in rate. But there's a lot going on. Just in general, we're not an anomaly. It's just that you throw in the electrification piece of it, and it sort of has thrown us over. So with that, this is the closest I've ever been since I've been here of being to the bottom line. So we are watching it closely, looking for other ways that if we creep into the red on that bottom line, we have some other pockets of funding that we can go after. I mentioned in my memo that I usually hold in our SPED 240 grants. The funds are educational assistance here. Enough money for like 1.5 educational assistants that we can roll into the new year. So I have that funding that we can apply to this year. And there's some other things I can look at on the building side with some of the other revolving funds that we have. So we will. And the last piece that I have that will be our stopgate is, keep in mind we have not made our contribution to the OPEB of $250,000. So worst case scenario, if we have to sort of lean into that a little bit and make a smaller contribution, it's more important to have a zero than putting money into the OPEB. So that is where we stand. We're watching it closely, and managing it as best we can, but not sacrificing anything as far as the experiences of the students.
Okay.
A quick question. You said there's an issue with the supply portion of the electric bill?
Yeah.
Break it down for me.
So
like the rate they're charging us to supply it, or
yeah, so
there was a drain somewhere we can't find.
So
it's across the board, like what they're charging.
Yeah, the rate's gotten. Yeah. So in all transparency, they were not they were charging us lower than our contract rate.
Okay.
For a big piece of this contract, and I talked to the procurement officer and our consultant, and they're like, just let it go. Well, all of a sudden it's gone up higher than the contract. So I am going to go back and see about that, but it's you're careful about what can of worms you open, only now because now we're close to the end of that contract. It ends in end of November. So that's where we are going to softly look into that. But so we were, say, we're getting 11 cents, now up to almost 16 cents. Our contract was like 14 cents.
Yeah. I mean, once one thing's discoverable, everything's discoverable.
Yeah.
Is there an inflection point where people augment with battery? So draining down, reserving in low peak hours, and starting out with battery power during peak hours. Like there should be a break-even point where.
Right. So. But we don't have that option to do.
Okay, but I'm saying
you buy batteries.
For long.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it seems to be an issue, that one's one way of
Yeah.
augmenting.
Well, I think they've continued to be working on the morning warm up. I think we've had Train, as is our manufacturer. It actually has been out here multiple times because there are some funny things in the controls boards of couple of the units. So I'm hoping that we've fixed some of that. So some of it was the electrification, but some of it also could have been the internal settings of 3 of the 7 RTUs. So it hasn't necessarily been, there's been hiccups in the operation that just needs to continue for them to tweak. I mean, as you think about these things, there's so much of a computer brain in them that, one setting that wasn't quite right at the factory, it takes a while for them to figure out. So Train's been out here, I would say at least 4 times up on the roofs checking all the RTUs because we can tell from our system some things that don't quite seem right. And I will say our contractor's been great working with us and continuing to support. I mean, the project's closed out, but they're continuing to support because they still own, the operational efficiency of those units that they installed. So it's just been a little bit of a lot of little things that have come together at the same time that has caused us to have like a little bit of a higher cost than we had ever anticipated for utilities.
I have one thing that I didn't notice until the other night at town meeting. So the parking lot, it's on like a generator, the parking lot lights.
Yeah, so we have a claim in with Eversource right now. So if you remember the gas lines getting digged up last year, so they hit one of the electrical lines that feeds the high school parking lot lights.
Oh.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah, because I was coming out and I was like, why do we have this here? Has this always been here? And then I thought, what have I missed? And I thought I totally had like a moment.
So if you go around the whole exterior, of the parking lot against the woods, right? Right where like the receiving door is, there was an electrical conduit that they nicked, and that took away all those lights.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to figure out the best way to do it. So I think we have a plan, but we're submitting a claim to Eversource because we don't want to pay for it. And so the town of Dover actually loaned us those lights, and we repositioned them where we need them the most. Now we do have lights up on the high school now that are able to light the lower lot.
Right.
So that's why we moved the lights up to Lindquist, because when we were having some of the performances, when it would get out, it would be dark. But as you know, the entrance was pitch black.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, it just kind of dawned on me. I thought, what is happening? Did I miss this whole like however many years my kids have been going here? And I thought, no, this is new.
No, well, it's almost been a year. Well, not quite a year. Almost a year though, when they were out doing all that digging. So
they need to get on it.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, because clearly they're getting money somewhere. They should have enough to pay it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
As an aside. There we go. Okay. So.
Just looking at a couple of just wrap up. So the auditors are out next week. So everyone's a little backed up if you talk to anyone in the audit world. So we won't have your fiscal year 25 financial statements until September because since they're starting on May 11th, there's no way they're going to get the financial drafts done for your June 9th meeting. So we will have this. If we get those in the summer, we'll definitely share them with school committee so you have them. I mean, usually there's nothing more than just, the normal financial statements, but they'll be here. Then we'll bring Pat Collins, our treasurer, and the auditors here to present those in September. I do have the latest updated actuarial evaluation for the OPEB that just hit my desk on Friday. I'll bring that to the June meeting. Obviously, as we all know, what's been happening in the healthcare world, our liability went up quite a bit, actually. So at this point, I don't think 50,000 is going to make a big difference. So unless we use 50,000 for the operating budget, it's a hard one to. We'd had a couple years where. It was great satisfaction to see that OPEB liability go down. So we were down to like 24 million. We're back up to like 29 million. But you can read about all the different reasons why.
It happens quick.
But the cost of healthcare is one of those. And then, looking at life expectancy, some of those others. So we are seeing some decreases in some of our work that we are doing, which is helping not have it go up as much. But I was disappointed to see that up so much. But we'll share that with you. And that's a piece of the audit as well. That'll be incorporated into the financials, but I'll share it while it's still fresh with you guys in June.
I went to the Sherborn Library for the Jake Arkansas talk today, and that was his main thing, was the healthcare. It's just so variable.
Yeah.
Well, it was bad. Didn't give me hope. So there we are. Is that it from you? Any more questions? Anybody? Okay. All right, so next we have the student handbook. So this is the district handbook. Do you want to discuss?
Sure. So I want to give full credit to our Director of Student Services, Kate McCarthy, and our principals and assistant principals for their work last summer. If you remember, they took the 4 distinct school handbooks and made a district handbook that you all approved in the early fall. And we've now lived with it for a year, and laws and expectations outside of DS have changed. So we always have our attorney go through it. So you have tonight the district handbook with red line changes that are suggested either by our administrators or our legal counsel, as well as our code of conduct, any suggested changes. There's just kind of a few, they're not even like large, but longer changes I want to draw your attention to in the handbook. We just clarified that the expectation is that when you're assigned to a school bus for transportation, you ride that school bus, and if you need to take a different bus home for extenuating circumstances, that you have a conversation with the principal just to get their approval. As you know, e-bikes are becoming more and more popular, and they are tremendously dangerous. And as I've learned through this year and through investigating, there's different classes of e-bikes and different expectations in terms of age and license and helmets. So this just spells out what is and is not allowed on campus and what our expectations are for our students. We're doing our best to keep everybody safe. And then lastly, we added a section about locker and bathroom access. So if you remember back in 2011, it became a law that schools had to ensure that all of their bathrooms and locker rooms were accessible to students to choose from based on their gender identity. And that became part of our practice 15 years ago. DESE created guidelines to help schools do this relative to bathrooms, locker rooms, and how we deal with student records and pronouns and things like that in 2013. In 2016, the state applied this to all public spaces, so all businesses and public bathrooms had to abide by the same expectations. And just recently, we've had a parent request that we outline that in our handbook, and we're happy to do that. So we've included that. We thought it was just kind of known practice, but we want to make sure it's spelled out here. And we're also working with our athletic director to make sure that all of our athletes are aware of their rights and our expectations moving forward. So those are kind of the big changes in terms of the handbook and the code of conduct. Before we go to the restraint policy, any questions or comments there?
Just a quick question. And I might be misremembering this. I thought before COVID, kids could take like sort of whatever bus they wanted to, like after school. Like they could switch buses more freely. Elementary for sure. I don't know if the high school ever did.
I think it's become an issue of safety on school buses in terms of behavior, in terms of bus drivers knowing the students and who the trusted adults that they can get off the bus to is, and kind of an expectation of continuity with behavior. That sometimes when we have friends join buses, behavior on the bus shifts and doesn't make it easy.
It actually stopped when my kids were still there. Part of the reason was on early release days, like the buses that would go to like the town centers, it would just be mass, like it was unsafe. And so we instituted where it definitely was you could go on whatever bus you wanted to back in the day, but I would say it's been at least 10 to 12 years.
We should run a town center
that they
bus on
changed.
Athens.
Yeah. And without a note, you're supposed to go on your own bus.
But of course, things happen, so we're just kind of spelling out.
No, I knew it was more like as in more of an exception now, but like elementary, I felt like pre-COVID, like you could get on a bus with
if you had a
with
note,
friend.
though, you had to have a note.
Yeah.
But it was much simpler. I think it was more you just told the teacher, like it was a note to the teacher. So
Right.
it was
Yeah,
just
that
a
was like a paper note you had
Yeah,
to write.
for play dates and such, that
Yeah.
definitely.
Right.
Yeah, bus to the center of town.
I was in Medfield for their half day, and I was not aware that they had a half day.
Oh,
Yeah.
Starbucks.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
The library.
Even brothers.
Like everywhere. And I'm like, I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. And the librarian's like, oh, yeah, it's their half day. And I'm like, okay, it's just.
That's Dover Center on a half day too. Like,
Oh, really? No,
yeah,
Sherborn
the
doesn't
library and
really.
community center overrun because there's nothing to do in Dover besides those two places.
Yeah, no, Sherborn really, I mean, right? Or I don't think Sherborn really
No,
does.
CNL may get a little more crowded, but
Yeah, but.
There's not many other options.
What else
there's
is
no other
there?
options. Yeah. Maybe
And the
we should
little
open.
ones go to the playground, the younger kids go.
Yeah, but they don't walk there by themselves, I don't
No,
think.
no.
Yeah.
I wish they did, but no.
Anyway, sorry.
That's okay. No, it's a good point. We will take that under advisement. Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions about the code of conduct or the handbook before I talk about the restraint policy?
I don't like the name restraint policy.
I
but
know.
That's okay.
I
It
know.
gives me.
But this is a step in the right direction of making sure that that is a last case
Yeah.
scenario. So, speaking of policies, we had to kind of push this one ahead before you look at all the policies and approve all of them. So I just want to draw your attention to this one specifically. The Department of Education has made some specific requirements in terms of updating our policy, and I agree with all of them. So the first expectation is we update the policy. The second is that timeout spaces are well defined. As you'll see in the policy, timeout spaces have to be an unlocked setting where a student is free to leave at any time and must be continuously observed by staff. Timeout setting is different than a seclusion setting, which was previously prohibited in schools and now is only allowed in emergency situations where a child is a harm to themselves or somebody else. And that said, we have to have parents' permission ahead of time before that's even considered as a last case scenario. And there's very specific rules about documenting when that happens, communicating with the parents, and then the administration of a building reviewing that to make sure that we're doing everything possible to de-escalate and support a student in any other way to avoid making that happen. So while this is not a popular topic and something that we ever want to think about in a school setting, unfortunately, it does happen in schools from time to time. But I think that this policy is a step in the right direction in terms of clarifying exactly all the support that we should be providing students and all the information we should be providing parents before we have to get to that point.
Sorry, another question for you. I know that staff in the building generally all have some sort of background and understanding of how it works, but is there a particular person in each of the buildings that is more specialized in it or has taken more classes or certain, can you talk about that? Or?
Sure. So each building has a safety care team that involves educators, psychologists, counselors, behavior specialists that are usually called to a situation when a child has become escalated or deregulated. And they're trained in terms of how to de-escalate a child and then kind of all the levels you go through before you get to, anything like a timeout or a restraint.
Right.
And they run trainings every year for all staff, kind of just general de-escalation strategies that anybody can use at any moment. And then there's other people who are kind of trained at various levels.
Okay. Yeah, because back in college, I took restraining class as well. It's just very different, like the different levels of what you have to do. So I just didn't know what it was like in the education setting. So thank you.
Parents of kids who might have an outburst, can they meet with these teams ahead of time and talk to them about things?
Yeah, and they have to give permission for seclusion to happen. So it's now going to become part of the IEP process that if the child, is at risk of becoming deregulated, the team will know ahead of time whether that's an option for them.
Okay.
Is there a room in the building that would be safe for them for
That's something that we have to do, is find those spaces and make sure it meets the regulations, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but as you know, as I just mentioned, and you might not know this, we're training all of our staff in de-escalation strategies, which is just good for anybody.
Yeah.
I think some of us can use that, sometimes on the road when you meet someone who's upset with you, de-escalation of anybody who's upset. But we also have, Don, you will know this, what are they called in the rooms? the stations where kids can go to kind of
Oh,
have just
calm-
a,
Call me. The Pine Hill has them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have fidget toys and just
Oh, but my daughter, what is, I can't
I think it's
remember.
called calming.
They're
stations.
calming
Yeah.
center. Yeah, there was one at the
Refill.
MFA during
Refill?
Art and Bloom, which I could have used. It was
The
very
the Pine Hill preschool
Okay,
they even have one.
Yeah,
And then,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So we
refill
have these
station.
strategies. for
Refill
all-
station, thank
with
you,
refill
that's it.
station, thank you. So we have multiple levels, and we hope never to get to that extreme level, but should it happen, we need to have something in place that really protects our students, first and foremost, but also our staff.
Yes.
And I think at the elementary level and a little bit here too, we've actually even have a new position in our educational assistant contract. It's the registered behavioral technician,
Dan-
RBT, an RBT they're called. So they have a little bit more training in handling students that
What's
might
Pine
have.
Hill's name? Is it a behavioral analyst or is that?
No,
something
it's called RBT,
Okay.
registered behavioral. So we have them at actually 3 of the 4 schools right now have EAs that are hired with that training.
Okay.
So we have the BCBA, which you're talking about as
Mhm.
well, who really does kind of
Oversee.
overarching behavioral plans and,
Mhm.
and working with teachers to come up with strategies. But then you have the RBTs who are often assigned to small groups of kids or individual kids, who might need support and all of the de-escalation strategies at a low level during the day to kind of keep them from getting to that higher level.
You said there was 3 out of the 4, or
Schools
how?
who have those positions in the schools.
What school does not?
Right now, I don't think there's a need at the. Oh no, actually, it's all 4 schools. Take that back.
Okay.
Yep. So it's really it's sort of like student driven a little
Yeah.
bit.
No, I
So,
hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
These are good questions, and of course, questions I'm sure parents would be asking too. So please digest these 3 elements, and we'll circle back in June.
Yeah, because that's our second read, right? So that's when we would vote.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you have any questions between now and then,
I have one question I forgot. For the fighting,
Mhm.
it said like end charges will be brought, was that removed because it said police will be called, but the
It's
police charges determined by police, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
it's situational, and it's not for us to.
Yeah, it's just narrowing the lane.
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
okay. Well, thank you all. Policies are very complicated, so I have this to talk to Alicia, make sure everything's right. Okay, so next we have items for approval. We have the consent items. The first of which is an overnight out-of-state field trip. It's going to the national parks of Utah, Nevada, and Arizona during April vacation of 2027. First, I was like, we already had April, but it's for next year. It's a known travel company that they've used, and Kelly Manise and Scott Huntoon will be the chaperones. And they've attached the details of the trip. So, and this is one of those ones that people opt into, yes.
And there's definitely scholarship and support available to
Yeah.
students who would like to attend.
Okay, so with that being said, as a school committee,
And it's-
oh yes, in the minutes, did anyone see any changes or corrections that needed to be made to the minutes of March 12th, 2026? There was a lot of budget talk during this one. That's all I could remember. Yeah. So it was really budget driven, as most of it was. So with that being said, with both of those, do I have a motion to approve the consent items for the overnight out-of-state field trip and the approval of the regional school committee minutes of March 12th, 2026?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Mary Louder, second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. So our consent items are approved unanimously. There are some informational items in there with civil rights grievance procedure. Is this just something that came out from the state, I guess, or?
No, it's more, it's a procedure. So our policies very specifically cover civil rights, and they're being updated, as we speak to make sure they're up to 2026 standards. We have a very specific Title IX grievance procedure, and that obviously involves sexual harassment. For civil rights that don't fall into the sexual harassment category, we just wanted to be clear about what the grievance procedure was. We had something generally outlined, but we wanted to make sure it was as robust as our Title IX one. It's not a policy, it's a procedure, so it doesn't have to be approved, but we wanted you to have the opportunity to read it and provide feedback.
Because anything that's not like policy driven, we're not going to vote as a committee. That's because that can change quickly from building to building or year to year. So that's best kept as a handbook issue so that they don't need us all to come together because it's a lot. There's also the Dover and the Sherborn School Committee minutes from February 3rd. And then to note, our next meeting will be June 9th of 2026. It is a 5:30 start time again. That will be post-election.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Will there be potentially new?
There's one seat open, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
And it's Andrew's seat, and Andrew's running for it.
Oh, okay, cool.
And me, and I'm running, so.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So it could be all of us back here together again. Until I finish all the policy, that's where we are. So that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn at 6:44?
Mayor Louder.
Second?
And then second.
There's no discussion, I would assume. And so all in favor? All right. Thank you. We're adjourned.